Affairs. This week we chose to speak about the eruption of the so-called Arab Springs. And why we chose January? Because January was in the middle of the eruption of all revolutions in the Arab world, if we can really call them revolutions. It all started in Tunisia and then Egypt, followed by Libya, then to Syria and on. 5 years after the eruption of the so-called Arab Spring, we haven't seen any kind of spring. We have seen autumn with all its storms, hurricanes and winds. And so far we are still weathering its environmental changes. Some countries were able to overcome the storms that happen and change their path or retrieve their path. Others were not so able to do so. The Arab Springs, the repercussions on the Middle East, it was all a dream that was hijacked by some groups who spoke on behalf of religion, on behalf of anything else other than the dreams, the real dream that was wanted very much by the youths and the common people. We'll be speaking about this. We will be speaking about 5 years after, what happened during those 5 years, what emerged in the Middle East, who hijacked, and how was some countries able to retrieve their own path, how were others not able to, who are playing with the threads, as we can say, and what will be happening in the next stage. All this we'll be speaking about in our episode today. Before we start with our discussion, let me first have a quick report. Now, the Chinese president was in an important visit to Egypt, a visit that occurred after 12 years, or the first official visit after 12 years. Of course, there were significant issues or visits or meetings that occurred here in Egypt, but today we are speaking about the Chinese president's visit to the Arab League, setting his priorities or his foreign policy in the Middle East, and speaking about exactly the position of China from many of the Arab files. Let's watch the report and we'll come back for discussion.
Chinese President Xi Jinping paid a visit to the Arab League headquarters on Thursday. He was received by Pan-Arab Body Chief Nabil Al-Arabi and Prime Minister Sharif Ismail. Addressing the Arab League, Xi stressed that China's support to the Palestinian cause and establishing a Palestinian state on the 1967 borders with eastern Jerusalem, its capital. Concerning Syrian crisis, Jinping said that the situation in Syria cannot continue and the ceasefire is a priority. He underscored the necessity of a unified vision to combat terrorism, and the Chinese leader stated that Beijing became the biggest trade partner of Arab countries, adding that China would participate in building industrial zones in the Middle East. Earlier, the Arab League stressed that the significance of Chinese president's visit to the headquarters of the Arab body in boosting Arab-Chinese cooperation. Deputy Chief of the Arab League, Ahmed bin Halli, said that the visit sent a message of importance of enhancing bilateral ties between the Arab world and the Chinese people. The Chinese president also announced billions of dollars in special loans and investments in the Middle East as Beijing seeks to boost its economic ties and clout in the region. She offered China's financial support in an address to the Cairo-based Arab League after holding talks with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. She offered $55 billion American dollars in loans and investments to the Middle East. He also announced the establishment of a common investment fund worth $20 billion American dollars for Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Meanwhile, she signed some separate agreements with Cairo for undertaking projects in sectors like electricity, transportation, and infrastructure.
Right, welcome back. That was the visit of the Chinese president to the Arab League. Before coming to Egypt, of course, he was in Saudi Arabia, where he set or voiced support for Saudi Arabia or the Arab coalition led by Saudis war or retrieving the legitimacy of Yemen. And of course, he voiced supports towards many causes in the Middle East, particularly the Palestinian cause. After Egypt, he headed to Iran, and he voiced concerns about the escalation between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And so far, this is the visit with its significant importance because the Chinese president's presence in the Middle East, it's a new era, a new chapter we are opening with a giant economy like China. But this is not our discussion. As we said at the very beginning, our discussion would be about 5 years after the eruption of the Arab Spring. Before we proceed with our discussion, let's first have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for discussion.
Fresh demonstrations over unemployment and poverty in central Tunisia raised fears of growing social unrest 5 years after the country's revolution ignited by similar grievances. Protests and clashes with security forces started in Al-Qasrain following the death of Saturday of an unemployed man who was electrocuted atop a power pole near the governor's office. The uprising was sparked by the death of Mohamed Bouazizi, who set himself on fire in nearby Sidi Bouzaid in protest at unemployment and police harassment in December 2010 and died a month later. Despite the success of the Tunisian political transition in the past 5 years, the authorities have failed to resolve the problems of social exclusion and regional disparities. The United Nations announced that peace talks aimed at ending Syria's conflict would likely be delayed by a few days past the scheduled start date on Monday. A spokesman for UN Syria envoy Staffan de Mistura, who is scheduled to host the talks, said that it was likely the 25th may slip by a few days for practical reasons. Earlier in the day, American Secretary of State John Kerry said that the planned start of Syrian peace talks may be delayed by a day or two for logistical reasons, but added that the process would begin roughly on time. More than 100 humanitarian and United Nations agencies called for an end to the war in Syria, appealing to governments and people around the world to add their voices to the demand for an end to the carnage. Oxfam, Save the Children, Caritas International, nearly 30 UNICEF branches and others called for an unconditional ceasefire to allow delivery of aid, freedom of movement for civilians, protection of hospitals, schools and water supplies, and the lifting of all sieges. The agencies invited people around the world to show support for the appeal by sharing it on social media. The UN Security Council approved the resolution in December, endorsing an international roadmap for a Syrian peace process. And in Yemen, at least 5 people were killed when an airstrike by Saudi-led forces hit oil storage facilities at Ras Isa port on the Red Sea on Thursday. The attack targeted a facility used to load tanker trucks with refined products for domestic distributions. Yemen's principal warring factions, fighters loyal to the ousted Saudi-backed Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi, who are battling the Houthi militia, and loyalists of former President Ali Abdullah Saleh, held talks last month in Switzerland to end a war that has killed some 6,000 people. They were due to meet again on January 14th in a bid to seal a lasting deal. Oil facilities in northern Libya were set ablaze on Thursday as Daesh terrorists launched fresh attacks to seize key export terminals. The militants drove into the oil storage farm early in the morning and clashed with petroleum facilities guards before retreating and firing from a distance to set 4 tanks on fire. A pipeline leading from the Amal oil field to the Issidr terminal was also targeted. State news agency Lana reported that Daesh terrorists were behind the attack and that the storage tankers belong to the Haroug Oil Operations Company.
Right, welcome back. And before we proceed with our discussion, President Fattah al-Sisi today marked the 64th National Police Day celebration at the New Cairo Police Academy and paid tribute to the families of the martyrs from the police forces and honored their widows and children. In his speech to the attendees, President Fattah al-Sisi stressed the importance of the role played by the police and the efforts and sacrifices that they offer for the sake of the country. He also said that the January 25th revolution is a source of pride for all Egyptians. That is what the President has stressed, reiterated by the Interior Minister, General Magdi Abdel Ghaffar, who also addressed the ceremony and said that the January 25th is a source of pride for all Egyptians, adding that the implementation and completion of the transitional roadmap is the way to build the country, and stressing that the police officers will continue to defend and secure the country. This is exactly what happened in at the beginning of this day, and this is part of what we are going to speak about. Let me first welcome our guest, Major Dr. Yahya Al-Sanjaq, who is a strategic expert. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
Let me start from the very beginning, or from the eruption of the whole issue, and Bouziza burned himself for a very simple cause. He saw it would turn into a real symbol, and then everything erupted.
Yes.
And then everything was burned.
Yes.
So let us take it from what happened. What exactly happened at that time?
This issue started in December
20th, exactly.
2010, when this youth person, Tunisian person, he set fire in himself after he was suffering some problems with the police. Especially, there is a policewoman slapped him. He was trying to sell and trading some fruits and some vegetables in a market in a small city in Tunisia. Then when he discovered himself he cannot do anything, and he is losing his source to get money, and the economic situation in Tunisia became so bad, he set fire in himself in front of a government building. Then the people start to gather and make a noise, make administration, so. The situation start to be critical, and there is a flame came from Tunisia to Egypt on the 25th of January, National Day, holiday of police in Egypt, by support of some groups. These groups take special courses outside Egypt by intelligence department of superpower countries, especially in Europe. We can name it if you would like.
Yes, we'll do that. But before turning to this, to what really happened or what was behind the corridor, because this is what was behind the corridors.
Yes.
What we have learned after. What happened is that some of the very common people had this idea of bread, freedom, and social justice, nothing else.
Yes.
And then they were played on by other groups and factors, and even outside players. If we can speak about, yes, this part you've been speaking about, and how things turned or turned from its path, or what people aspired for, to another totally different track.
If are going to talk in truth way, we can find three groups in this issue. The youth people of Egypt, the Egyptian Jewish people, the religion groups, and some other groups working to foreign countries. It starts by youth. The revolution starts by youth people, which they would like to have a new future, better future, solve the economic, try to find a job, try to stop Gamal Mubarak to success his father.
Yes,
Since this time,
father, yes.
yes. They become upset from the regime since this time and from the government. They don't feel any progress during the 30 or the, let us say, past 50 years. So they started to gather in Maidan al-Tahrir slowly. Good people, good youth people. You see, our sons, our daughters, the educated persons go there just to make a revolution, to change the procedure, to stop the worst period which Egypt suffered in this time. They succeed, and they show us a very, very good picture for the future. We support them all. We will become happy, more than we can believe, to see something like this in our life.
A popular revolution that really wanted to...
for better life.
Yes, that really wanted to change the course of life into
That's
a better life, into fulfilling the aspiration of the people, very common people, yes.
Especially the economic situation in Egypt since this time was so bad, and especially the youth people, they are suffering, they cannot find money to buy flats or properties or normal things. You need it in your life.
Live a common life.
That's right. That's right. And they have a hope, which is very, very important for the person to have a hope in his life to continue fighting. If you don't have a hope, so difficult for you to get the second step. Anyhow, everybody was so happy by this. They don't aim to change the president since this time. They ask him for better future.
There were demands, yes.
That's right.
Demands to,
yes.
To improve the,
That's right.
the situation.
This is in the 25th of January. But there is a big problem. There is no leadership for these groups in this time. They don't know what to do. Just they said banners. We need bread, we need freedom, something like that. But the second group, which I mentioned before, the religion group, let us name them directly, Ikhwan Muslimin, the Muslim Brotherhoods. They have planning for everything. They have planning to choose the right time to interfere themselves in the situation. Just they were waiting for this right time. When they found the people gathering everywhere, starting from El Suez, Cairo, Alexandria, the main cities in Egypt, they start to
mobilize people,
yes,
their own people.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry to tell you that I saw a lot of buses in bridge of 6 October bridge on the 28th of January, coming from some cities in Upper Egypt and from Delta also. They get some people with Galabaya.
Yes.
and sticks.
Yes.
So they start their plan. They close Midan al-Tahrir by themselves. They have security measures to control Tahrir. Then the young youth people withdraw themselves because there is no impossible for any woman or a girl to be involved in this mess. So
actually, yes, Egypt was an example, a big example of how things turned.
Yes.
But that also happened in many other countries. I mean,
yes.
And continued. Unfortunately, in Egypt, things were able to be maintained and to be retrieved because of let's say because of the armed forces, because they were able to contain first the people and then give them trying to fulfill what they aspired for, and then when things went out of hand, they were able to control the situation. Yes, this happened in Egypt. But we have also seen same revolutions of the so-called Arab Springs taking place in other countries. We've been seeing Libya and what happened and what is happening up till this minute. Syria, we have been seeing Yemen, we have been seeing many other, Tunisia.
Yes.
And Tunisia, still the Prime Minister who has just called today for an emergency cabinet meeting after the authorities declared a night-time curfew nationwide following the worst outbreak of social unrest. Again in Tunisia, nothing is settled.
That's right.
So tell me more about how things became in even other countries and they were not able to contain the situation.
Yes. As I told you before, the flame came from Tunisia to Egypt. And when Tunisia succeeded to step down their president, there is no target for the Egyptian people on this situation appear. Just to step down President Hosni Mubarak. And they start to ask him to resign. Also, the Muslim Brotherhood start to put some fire everywhere. Not fire, I don't mean...
Fuel the situation.
Yes. And try to support the people with the new idea. We want Islamic religion country. We don't want this president because. And the president start to resign. The Prime Minister of
Ahmed Shafiq was the Prime Minister.
No, this is the second one, Ahmed Shafiq. He assigned Ahmed Shafiq.
Yes.
Ahmed
Nazif.
Ahmed Nazif. Yes. That's right. So they started to ask for more.
The demand started to escalate.
Yes.
Very much.
Yes. So a little bit when the intelligence department discovered that the situation become very critical and they are going to continue and the life of the president was in danger, they asked him to resign through General Omar Suleiman. He accepts and he tried to suck the problem and the situation and the temper of the people by assigning Omar Suleiman as a vice president to continue the regime as it is, a little bit. But of course there is a difference between ex-president Hosni Mubarak and General Omar Suleiman. The people, they don't accept it. So President Hosni Mubarak asked the army to take care about the country.
To be the caretaker, yes, of the country.
Yes. Through a high counselor of the Egyptian army since this time, leading by Marshal Tantawi. By the way, he was my teacher in the military academy one day. And to be honest, for the history, he was very good man. He is very honest, and you can trust him. Everybody make mistakes.
Definitely.
Especially, he become a little bit old.
But even before we go to the SCAF and how they ruled, because this was a transitional time, it was everything in chaos and nobody knew really what was really wanted at that time. So how would the army fulfill the aspiration of everyone on the ground? It was very much chaotic. But I have here to say that what led to the eruption of all this and what supported the people and who really gave the chance for those to interfere was the wrong policy that was really conducted by the past regime.
Yes, yes.
So that is just for the history also to be said.
Yeah.
They really did not understand what was going on the ground, and they did not see things, they saw things from the top, not from the bottom. Anyway, that was the case, and then the armed forces controlled the situation in a transitional period until things settled.
In this issue, if you can allow me to say 2 points, please.
Please.
The first one, the regime since this time, they were thinking that they are strong enough to control everything, you see, which is big mistake. This is number one. The second one, there is an idea in the army. The army will never open fire against the civilians.
Definitely.
It is impossible.
Definitely.
Not from today's or the near past, from many, many years ago. It is impossible to ask a military officer to start to shoot any person. It is impossible, not easy. For that, the army give a chance for the people to move, to trust them. But there is some people and some groups play on this background. They would like to make a problem between the people and the army, between Muslims and Christians, between everything, destroy everything in this country. Anyhow, let us say they succeed to step down President Hosni Mubarak, and the flame go to Libya in February 2011. They start slowly, and Gaddafi make a big mistake. He opened fire directly against his people.
Yes.
And he succeeded to kill about 50,000 persons there during some months. And he succeeded to disappear from the battle for a little bit. And NATO start to play a game. It is a complicated situation between a lot of countries, and don't forget the rules of General Intelligence Department all over the world. They are playing everywhere.
That would be speaking about, but we just want to continue how the track and from Libya and
to Syria.
Libyan mistakes, or the Libyan president mistake, and of course all the interference by many outside parties, to Syria, were the same
situation. They don't start against Bashar al-Assad directly. They start to make some administration just for better life. And Bashar al-Assad do the same problem with Gaddafi, like Gaddafi.
Start hitting on his people directly.
Open fire, let his army to open fire against normal people. In Syria, there is a lot of groups. The Muslim Brotherhood and the Shia Sunni,
Kurds.
Alawi, Kurds there. They become together and try to put down the regime against Bashar al-Assad. And he continued firing them in severe way. Not controlling his people, no, killing them. Anyhow, the war there starting to be much bigger than you can believe. And they succeed to destroy a lot of military units belong to the Syrian army. The Syrian army start to be weak, not strong. For that, we can find the north of Syria. They don't have army there. They have military militias there. And then Daesh start to move because there is some problems in Iraq. If we see the flame is moving on this area in the Middle East, starting from Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and some other countries in Africa also. And some protests in some Arab countries like Bahrain. You remember what happened in Bahrain?
And then Yemen.
And Yemen, of course, it is number 4 or 5. And in Saudi Arabia also.
And in Saudi Arabia also.
In Kuwait.
Yeah.
So this is the history of the Spring Arab, not revolution.
The so-called Arab Spring.
Yes.
So let's take it from where you stopped, sir, and let's. Some of the countries were able to retrieve their track because people really had their own confidence in their own armed forces. Others were not able to get back to what we can say a real state.
Yes.
And they are a failing state up till this minute.
That's right.
If we are speaking about reasons, then we have to speak about reasons in each countries or players in each countries who really played the role of fueling the situation, and instead of getting to the right path, changing the whole thing into chaos. And what were the motives?
Yes.
In each country I'm speaking.
Yes. Yes. This depending on civilization, depending on your history, depending on your experience, depending how your leaders thinking carefully and clearly about the situation. We cannot make a compare between the Egyptian leadership any time with small Arab countries. They are thinking not clear. They are thinking that if they are going to open fire against the people, they are going to stop them, which is a big mistake. Look at Gaddafi, what he has done in Libya, and look for the military counselor.
The Supreme Council of the Armed Forces here in Egypt.
Yes, by Marshal Tantawi, how he controlled, he tried, yes, I told you before, there is some mistakes. And we don't know exactly what happened in many things. We don't know. Nobody talk. And I am asking Marshal Tantawi to talk for the history, not for himself. We appreciate what he had done for us.
Definitely, he might be talking when the time is okay for him to.
I am afraid maybe it will be too late. Talk. Tell people what happened exactly. Tell them the truth. You are not going to lose anything. We appreciate what you have done for your country. You are a very good officer. continue your life in this kind of standard.
Yes. Other countries. What happened in Tunisia, what happened in Libya, what happened in Syria, the groups who are fueling the situation, the parties, the outside players, what exactly are the motives being put there? What is the situation?
You remember that the Muslim Brotherhood succeed in the early beginning in Tunisia. They control the country and they started to elect a parliament and they fail. So the situation start to be not stable at all.
Shaky, yes.
Shaking. And up till now, they have a hope to control the country. For that, we can find a lot of problems these days in Tunisia. They are not stable and they don't have peace in their life since this time. Look to the people in Egypt. What happened? We succeed. We succeed by the military support, the people here. They control the country, they protect the country, they secured the official buildings everywhere, and the situation become more stable than the other countries. But still, these religion groups, they have a hope. And you remember ex-president, I don't want to mention his name, when he said that we are going to stay and control this country for 500 years.
Yes, definitely.
But after 1 year, he lost his chair. Do you think his group will be happy to stay like that? For that, they are setting fire every day, from time to time, threw some bombs in squares against the police people and the army in North Sinai. They are thinking, but by this way, they are going to receive the back.
Yes. If you can, really, I have 2 minutes here left for me, and I need to know exactly where is, after 5 years, where are we standing? What are we expecting in this upcoming stage? What is the message that we have to give here today?
You are talking in specifically about Egypt, or?
I was speaking about the whole Middle East.
Of course, the situation is not stable, and it will continue for a little bit sometimes for this, but the situation is different between the countries, between Egypt, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Tunisia.
And that's already difficult for us.
We are lucky to find a good leader.
Yes, we are lucky, but we are surrounded by all those.
Of course, yes. Of course, and they are going to continue. And I always said that maybe we will continue like this for 5, 6, 7 years. It's not easy because they are working under the ground. You are fighting not clear enemy. They have civilian clothes and they are against the regime. How you can discover them? You need a very, very, very strong police to try to discover where they are living, what they are planning, and to try to recharge them immediately. So, not easy. Also in North Sinai, the army is fighting not enemy so easy to know them. No, they are fighting some people wearing civilian clothes, and you become afraid to fight them because maybe he is innocent. What you can do? You are going to suffer some problems, some casualties. This is our problem, and it will continue. I still remember the leader of the Second Army from the beginning in North Sinai. He said, if I am fighting an enemy and I can see him within half an hour, I can solve this problem.
But that is if he really sees the enemy.
Yes.
And he is aware that he is the enemy. Unfortunately, that is not
That's
very
right.
much clear.
That's right.
So what we can conclude is, from here, is that 5 years passed, we have to learn from mistakes that were made on all levels.
Yes.
We have to look into the future with a very, very opened eyes, because we need to have our strength. We have too many threats confronting us. What is the last message here before I conclude this episode?
We should take care about ourselves. We should trust ourselves, trust our leader, try to support him, because one person, he cannot raise up a country. It is impossible. If he is a prophet, he cannot do it. We are lucky to find somebody like him, but be sure there is maybe 10 foreign intelligence department around us fighting us. Take care. It is not easy war we are fighting now, because you have money came from Qatar, intelligent measures and operations and planning came from Turkey, supporting the Muslim Brotherhood inside us, working with us, living with us, eating with us. And many foreign countries, they don't want
Yes.
Egypt to be in peace.
Yes. However, we are speaking about the whole Middle East. Well, may God bless Egypt, of course, and may the Middle East, or the whole Middle East, find its own peace, because we all need that. Major Dr. Yahya Sanjaq, strategic expert, thank you very much for being
You are
here.
welcome. Thank you very much.
This is the 5th year since the eruption of the Arab Springs. We have to really learn from what happened during the years that passed. We have to look to the future with opened eyes and see what exactly are the real challenges facing us. But before I go, let me just say that mistakes are done to be learned from. Many thanks for watching.